welcome to Public Eye right here on Enterprise Television. My name is Henry Igwebike. We'll be talking about journalism today and asking the very important question: who is a journalist? What does it take to become a journalist? Especially at a time where there is a proliferation of different platforms where people can communicate, both professional journalists and guerrilla journalists. It's really a space where lots of information go around. But the most important thing is, how do we distill the most important information such that the recipients, the audience, can get the most important answer that they need? So today we're talking about all of that, and we're truly very excited to do it today. And joining us to, of course, have a conversation this morning is Mr. Obong Thompson. He is the coordinator, Arise Agenda Awareness Program. Thank you so very much, Obong, for being here. I truly do appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Henry.
Yes. Most importantly, I'd love to say congratulations to you. You had your convocation from the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, and it's truly a very worthy accomplishment. So I'd love to start by asking, how does it feel being a professional journalist?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Henry. I feel very elated and a dream come true, if I may say, because it takes hard work and sacrifice to move a step forward in life. So having switched from a science background,
Yes.
From my first degree in science and then into mass communication, it was quite challenging. But for the fact that the eagerness and the zeal, determination was there in me. So I find it more, memorable, while learning through journalism in Nigeria.
Very, very true. Because the reason I'm asking this is because you are the coordinator of Arise Agenda Awareness Program, which of course is an advocacy group that champions the call for what you believe in. So can you just tell us a little bit about Arise Agenda Awareness Program and what your new portfolio as a journalist will do to this advocacy group?
Well, the FEDA just gotten some few hours ago will add serious impact into the running of the Arise Agenda Awareness Advocacy, in that we'll continue to intensify our actions and our deliverables in terms of the quality and excellent service delivery in gathering information and disseminating of information to the society, to make the society understand the role they have to play in every level of governance in the society, and also intimate the leaders to understand the need to give quality delivery of governance to the downtrodden.
Okay, very true. I would love us to be a little bit pragmatic here, because today we're talking about journalism and it's very important. I am that one person that believe in whatever you desire to do, go to the rudiments, go to the four walls of school and learn it. And that's just what you have done. You started from a science background, you've gone into communication and journalism. I would love you to maybe narrate to us what it feels coming from your science background, going through the training of becoming a journalist. What is that new thing that you have learned? So the question is, what does journalism mean to you, coming from where you were to where you are now?
Well, as a science background student, I've always find journalism, interesting. In that, as scientists, we have to carry out the experiment. We have to, that's in journalism, that is gathering of information production. So the experiment we embark on as a journalist, and then the report you give, and the findings, you also come out from all those experiments, and the conclusion and recommendation also form part of our background to help us to propel us into becoming a trained journalist. In that, we need to go for a proper training because there are so many, everything has its own tools and manual. I often said life has a manual. There's a way things has to be operated. So journalism has a way and manner it has to be operated. And if you are to be a professional journalist, you have to understand the rudiments of, operating successfully as a journalist. And that is what we just did in, in the last 2021, 2022 section. We went through the journalism school in Lagos, and then got trained. And during the process, we learned a whole lot of things. We studied most especially the media law.
Media law.
You understand? Where you should, where your limitation, reaches and
the limits, especially you know where to start and know where to end.
Very important.
Defamation, libel. You need to understand all of those.
Very, very key. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. As a journalist.
Very, very true. And then just to let you know that Nigerian Institute of Journalism in Ogba, Ikeja, is one of those institutions that would, of course, give you that first-hand training if you are interested of becoming a journalist. That is, they had their 7th convocation this year. Just to celebrate those who have been with them for a very long time and all. So Mr. Obong Thompson was one of them. Of course, I equally was one of them. So I am a product.
Congratulations.
I'm a product, yeah. So we're all products of NIJ. So it's been a worthwhile experience, schooling there. But of course, it's very important that we speak to some of these things. Just a couple of days back, we had a little banter or fracas on national television where Lere Olayinka, the chief spokesperson to Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, had a little, fracas with Rufai Useni. Where they were bantering on who is a journalist and who is not a journalist. Lere Olayinka, of course, who is a trained journalist, told Rufai Useni that he's not a properly trained journalist. He read animal sciences and said that he is not a trained journalist. And equally brought to the bear Dele Momudu also, who said he read Yoruba, and therefore he is not a trained journalist. So I'd love you to speak to me on this particular matter. Do you think Lere Olayinka is right?
Well, to the best of my understanding, becoming a journalist, it goes through so many routes. You can go through mentoring, can go through experience, you can go through the four wall of the university where you study journalism as a course, and then some certain art subject you learn through, and then qualified and graduate and be inducted into the journalism bodies, and then you become a full-fledged certified journalist. And then other routes also come as mentoring that I told you, being mentored through a certified and qualified journalist. You learn through the rudiment, just like the normal system that our Igbo brothers go through.
The Igbo entrepreneurship system.
Entrepreneurial system, go through 7 good years.
Yes.
So you won't come out to tell me that
the person is not an entrepreneur.
Or is not an entrepreneur.
Yes.
That wouldn't be correct, because he quite understand the technicalities of being a journalist, and probably practice it effectively. So what would make you feel he's not a journalist? And moreover, studying something in a different as a first degree course does not limit your chances of becoming a journalist. So I believe he was out of point, maybe just trying to put those guys one-sided. But to me, based on experience, you work in a media house, and you keep working there. You understand, the beginning and the end of every news production and whatsoever, how to do your presentation. And then all what you need to do is to get a certified body to certify you as an experienced journalist.
Very true.
And there you go practicing. So I think it's out of place for him to have run down those guys. That will make people feel as if they're not doing the right thing. Otherwise, I would say every person that wants to, practice journalism should be trained.
Yes.
And training does not mean until you go to the four wall of the university. No. I've mentioned mentoring through the experience you have, and other way. What we have now is everybody wants to, give out content. That content, has it been well collated? Is it accurate? Is it factful?
Fact checking and all that.
Yeah,
Fact
is it coming at the right time?
Timing.
So those
Very
makes
true.
a good quality of a good journalist. And then, are you responsible, respectful, and responsive? So these are what we are supposed to promote in the society today. With the advent of the social media, everybody is turning himself into a journalist. But rather, it should be regulated. Before information is given out, let it be vetted and properly scrutinized, and before such information is released to the public consumption.
Very, very true. Because false information, that's why you see all over the world there's this there's this call for dissuading people from misinformation, for passing wrong, false information that could destroy a nation, because a false information can go as far as implosion in a country if it's not properly managed. And going by what Mr. Obon Thompson had talked about, the possibility and the responsibility as people we have to control the kind of information we give out there, I think it's very important that everyone should get properly trained in order to do this great job. Of course, speaking of defamation and libel, which is a very big thing that we learned while we were with the NIJ, and what that did to me, I do not know for you, is that it was able to help me understand my limits. It helped me understand the rules of engagement. It helped me understand how to speak to someone without necessarily, disrespecting the person and all. So all of those were some of the things I learned with libel, defamation, what I'm supposed to say, what I'm not supposed to say. But we can't say this without mentioning one particular figure, and that's the very dark man, whom, of course, is all over the country right now and beyond Nigeria. There's a talk about his arrest. And there's allegation of cyber stalking and so many allegations against him. But looking at the very dark man, as a journalist, a well-trained journalist that you are now, what do you think are the little mistakes that the very dark man is doing as a guerrilla journalist? Because that's what he is.
Yeah, sincerely, the situation that the very dark man has found himself, comes as a result of the kind of society we have today. And if not for that, I would have advised very dark man to, as a matter of fact, still find a way of getting a better cultured system. What I mean by cultural system is a system that would train his, journalistic, exercise in such a way and manner that will not breach the peace and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because fine, we have the knowledge that there's freedom of expression, but
yes.
The
freedom after
expression is not guaranteed
yes.
in Nigeria.
Yes.
You understand? And being cultured has to do with the person itself, the personality, coming from a background that if you are making any assertion or deliverables, you have to make it with facts, politeness, sincerity, honesty, and straight to the point. Not in any way to cast false aspersion on some kind of person. So those are the challenges we are having. I know he's having that challenges, and he has to check it, because as a matter of fact, is doing what the majority of the youth of Nigeria likes.
And especially, he's doing so much that even most elected leaders don't even do, because he goes as far as helping communities, building infrastructures and facilities that elected leaders who are supposed to do it are not doing, but he's doing it.
Yes.
But the only issue he has is the communication.
That should not, you should not be overwhelmed by all the doings, the positive things that he's doing. He has to control and tame his temperament. Very, very key for him to be able to succeed in his dream of making Nigeria less corrupt and most sought after nation in the world. Because I knew he has a very good vision and a very good dream for Nigerians. But pride, they said,
comes before a fall. Yeah.
So he has to be forewarned, that he has to deliver his activism with clear cut of politeness, to avoid issue of libel and defamation
and all.
Very key.
Very, very true. But just before I let you go, I know I didn't tell you this before now, but I would love to put you on the hot seat if you may. With the kind of cross-carpeting we see today, defection from one party to another of governors, the opposition now going to the ruling party. We had that for Delta State, Sheriff Oborowori and his godfather, Ifeanyi Okowa. And we had other defections. There's equally the trend. It's still a rumor. That's why it's very important as journalists we ensure that we do with facts. This is still a rumor. It's not been substantiated, actually, that the person of Pastor Omoyeno might allegedly defect to the APC, the ruling party, which of course he had on many occasions said he supports Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So as a journalist, how do you think is the best way to report? If you were on the team of Omoyeno, how can you better communicate this message without hurting the base of people who voted him in the PDP?
Yeah, apparently, Mr. Henry, you've raised a very, very key question, and that I wouldn't have to speak for the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Pastor Omoyeno, but I'm still waiting to hear an official announcement. Most times the governor has said in several forums that he doesn't work by body language in any way. So no one should take him by any body language. He doesn't have body language. But if I am to advise, or if I'm to suggest, or if I may say something concerning the rumored that is, going on, everywhere in the social media, I would say Pastor Omoyeno has really done a lot
with the PDP.
Frame, with the PDP.
Okay.
And the masses, the citizens of Akwa Ibom are very, very proud of him.
With the PDP?
With the PDP.
Okay.
And from all the look of things, this is a man that came into power and rolled out about 60 billion naira, more than that, to clear the arrears of pensioners that has been piling up for so many years. This is the man that came and take care of the elderly with 50K stipends every month.
Wow. For
the elderly ones. The disabled have been taken care of. This is a man that has been able to cultivate a culture of, all the civil servants must, work a free work day for the, so that they can enable them to farm, every Fridays, back to farm. So talk of infrastructural, renewals or whatsoever, he's on top of his gear.
So he did all of this with the PDP. So there's no need for him to defect to the APC.
The advocates we have is that there is no need for that. The people are with you. With the people, you are guaranteed. The people that Pastor Omoyeno has can win any kind of war that comes within the state and outside the state. for him.
So he necessarily
So
doesn't
he
need to
doesn't
go to
need
another
cross
house
carpet to anywhere.
so as to guarantee his 2027.
He's already building a very good, rapport with the Senate president, the president. So what's the need? Because if you move to APC or any other party, every other thing will be deep sea port will be
might happen.
provided, or this and that will be provided. Then we have to consider the state like Plateau. I mean, the state like Benue. They were in PDP, but they are now APC. But insurgency
is still disturbing them. So it means that being in the APC is even not an umbrella to safeguard themselves from.
It's not a guarantee. So this is the advocacy we have, and these are what the masses yearns for. That the PDP, I don't want to say, but where he is now and things are working very well. Why do you need to change? You might have higher, target, fine. But if by his own wisdom, he has more superior, argument or alternative, fine, so be it. But I believe he will not be allowed himself to be, tampered with by the time he ends up switching.
Very, very true. And just like we often say right here, good governance is the most important thing. Akwa Ibom State necessarily does not need to plug. Like Sheriff Oborowori of Delta State has said that he needed to plug the Delta State to Abuja so he can get what Abuja would give him. That is not really important. The most important thing here is good governance. Once the people are with you, you need no opportunity, it's not even there for you to move to another place. And as journalists, we are here often and always to ensure that this information, this change of narrative would be guaranteed. Yeah, so you have your final take.
Yeah, so on that particular note of, the excellency likely moves, who is going to bail the cat? Who is going to be the last man standing? Because we find out that the present, Abuja government has made things miserable for the people of Nigeria. I'm sorry to say it, but
no, it is. It is the reality. It is fact.
Must say
as journalists, if you fact check, it is true.
Yeah, we must say it the way it is. So why are you running there to sow your linen? It's not necessary. We can see the Ibrahim Traore of Côte d'Ivoire standing tall, Burkina Faso, standing tall
and doing well,
making a mark in the minds of the people. And those are the kind of leaders we are yearning for in Nigeria. So Pastor Umoino can stand out in this aspect. He can still collaborate with whosoever I want to collaborate with and still give excellent governance to his people.
Very true. That is our desire, actually. Thank you so very much, Mr. Obong Thompson. He is the coordinator of Arise Agenda Awareness Program with its office right here in Lagos State, Nigeria. But of course, he does his advocacy across Nigeria and the sub-region. Thank you so very much for being here. And once more, congratulations for being certified as a true journalist. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Henry. Thank you for being part of the Arise Agenda advocacy. You've been a very, very key instrument to, propel the gospel of, Arise Agenda to the whole world.
Yes, of course. It is our responsibility to do that. Good governance is what we ask, and that is what we desire. That's just about the time we have for you people. We'd love to say thank you so very much for making this picture complete. Please do well to visit us if you may. You can actually read up on everything we have talked about just about now when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Public Eye. Bye-bye.
Oh boy, I want to...